everyone. Welcome back to Flow Into You TV. I am Ifa Busiayo Nafis, and I am going to be here facilitating this week's Soul Flow conversation. So I referred to the last reading, I referred to it as a reading, and I referred to it as an energetic collective. But moving forward, we are going to have this space as a soul flow conversation. Of course, it will still highlight what we're navigating energetically. However, I'm just going to be using the title Soul Flow Conversation because it's going to be a soul flow conversation. I want to thank everybody that was here for last week's message. If you tuned in, you watched it, you followed it, you commented, you shared it, I appreciate you. To my subscribers that have been here, my OGs that have rode it out with me from the last launching of Flow Into You TV and to now the relaunch of Flow Into You TV, I thank you. And this launch is going to include a whole new program, so continue to stay tuned. I have a lot to offer from my time away, and I want to use this space as a portal for nourishment for where we are in this time space continuum. So without further ado, let's get started with the conversation. Great Creator, thank you so much for bringing us to this space. I am opening the space to be a channel for your nourishment that we need at this time in this soul flow conversation. I call in my high spirit guides. I call also in my ancestors, as well as my own internal spirit, to support the facilitating of this message without distortion, without lack of clarity, but with peace, with certainty, and also with insight that will give more expansion beyond limitation, beyond bondage, beyond poverty in our own personal journeys and flows. Ashe. All right. So I also move away witchcraft, wizardry, and anything that is going to attempt to create confusion to this message in all space, time, continuum, dead, alive, hidden, or known. Ashe. All right, so let's get started. So we discussed last week, just a small quick recap, that there is an opportunity within this new moon cycle. We are now in the waxing phase, and we have an opportunity to move through the energies that we specifically our shadow archetypes, and reclaiming these aspects, this aspect, or there may be multiple shadows that we may be personally moving through, as well as the collective shadow, as well as family shadows, as well as community shadows, and navigating it with a certain perspective of clarity. And we discussed the version of love that is an unconditional love. It is an expression of love that moves beyond attachment, that moves beyond desire. Agape, which is a Greek word. And so we're going to build on that conversation. I don't know if you all have had your own, for those of you that watched and actually resonated with the message. I know personally, this message, the conversation that we had, has been moving with me since that reading. And I'll be sharing on Wednesday's upload specifically how and what came up around unworthiness. So make sure you tune in, put the bell on, click the bell so that you'll get the notification when I upload it. That'll be Wednesday's video. We'll be talking about unworthiness and how that connects to success and what that how that shadow shows up in our thought processes and our emotions and our behaviors. So let's build on that. What message specifically tonight do you have for us? My spirit, ancestors and guides, what do you have for us for this collective? Okay, so there was a song that just came up right after the ice machine was doing this thing. I don't know if you all heard it, but it's an OJ song. I'm going to drop it in the comments. I'm going to drop it in the description. And is the name of the song Backstabbers? I think so. Smiling in your face all the time, you want to take your place. The backstabbers. So, ice. Some of you all may want to, I'm getting like freezer spell energy. Someone doing freezer work. That being connected to your progress and how you move forward. And not even necessarily somebody doing a freezer spell on you, but also that there may be thoughts that are keeping you frozen in time that are working against you. And taking inventory into those processes. What keeps you in a certain loop? Okay? What is keeping you in a loop that isn't producing for you what you are desiring to manifest? And this could be showing up in your mental plane. It could be showing up in the emotional plane. And it could be showing up in, the stone card just appeared. So it might be a stone cold. You might, something trying to move through you. The father archetype is out here. Okay? With the stone. I'ma just sit. We gonna have a conversation around this right now. The flow with these archetypes, this object and this archetype. So the father archetype can present itself as someone who is a provider, showing up, providing for you, helping you to navigate the world in a way that will support you to be victorious. And how this archetype can show up, it can show up in its light form, where it is consistently present for your development, and it can show up in a shadow form, which is abandonment. And so with the stone, there are Ashe. Things that have thoughts around how you move, that have crystallized themselves and have grown into what seems to be protective, because there's that with the father archetype as well, that seems to be providing for you. And it isn't. What's interesting about the stone energy is that now when stones are in the earth, they are growing, right? And some of them are growing and expanding depending on where they are, right? And then you have the energy of the stone is that it also carries memories. And so we have these ancient minerals that carry energies. Some have been around for thousands of years, millennia even. And creates the landscape that we walk on and navigate through in the world. And so, with the father here and the stone card here, I'm hearing that. So, there is a few perspectives. Excuse me. There are a few there's a few perspectives that's coming through. One, what is the landscape that you've created for yourself that you walk on? What is there's different landscapes, right? Not all landscapes are stone, but stone is a part of the landscape. Even in the ocean, there are stones, right? There are crystals, there are minerals, and they are a part of the formation. What exactly are you is creating the landscape of the reality that you're manifesting? Are you manifesting from memory? Are you manifesting from an aspect of abandonment? Are you manifesting from the shadow or the light aspect of this archetype? Are you manifesting from, a fear? Are you exploring memories of fears that show up in how you actively move? Because now it's not with the father archetype, it isn't receptivity energetically, but more so it's how we're moving, what's moving. Now, of course, if you have a balance between the energies of the mother archetype is not out here. However, because the mother archetype produces this archetype, so to speak. That's our perception of our own movements and how we materialize, what we materialize in the world. Approval, right? And we'll talk more about this on Wednesday, but am I worthy of being supported, being provided for, being protected? And what do I have that is in my memory bank that when I have an event that shows up in my reality, that is activated? Or when I have an event that takes place that is a triggering event externally, and my thoughts around this event moves me into a state of freeze where I abandon myself. I abandon protecting, providing, because how is this in the mirror card is just unveiled itself. This object of the mirror. How am I using these opportunities, these events that are happening externally to reflect back to me, more than likely, how I may need to heal this archetype within me, because we all carry this archetype within us in order to sustain harmony. And so socially, societal norms have stated, when we think about the masculine representation in the physical form, that they're the providers. They go out and they do the heavy work, and they, when it comes to showing emotion, we're collectively still navigating that. What is that? What is a healthy masculine archetype truly? Where the energy isn't being suppressed. And it is being suppressed, that we are illuminating that suppression. Yeah. Why this card? For some of us, analyzing how we're showing up in this energy. Are we warping this energy to serve an unhealthy paradigm? There may be illusions surrounding these memories, these crystallized moments that may need to be melted down and created into a new form. Right? And we may need to go back in time. Maybe when we look in the mirror, we may see ourselves separate of this energy, this expression. Being honest with what are you molding this identity to be. What are you molding this identity to be? What more insight do you have, sacred spirit, around the father archetype? Yeah. Ideas. What are your ideas around the what are the ideas that what worldview have you accepted when it comes to patriarchal energy? So now this is about to take another turn. Okay. So Ashe. When we are engaging in our immediate communities, in our day-to-day lives, when we are having conversations with people in our immediate surroundings, how exactly are we showing up in this energy where it is nourishing an unhealthy patriarchal world view? And is this energy of domination? How are we expressing this? So there may be some of us in this collective that happens to be navigating, I was going to say negatively, so maybe nagging or nagging because of a lack of trust in masculine energy. There are, and that is impacting our own relationship with our in the harmonizing of our own psyche when it comes to masculine energy. So be mindful, Ashe. Be mindful of what is reflecting back to you from the world around you, specifically in your immediate surroundings, in your immediate environment. With your siblings, with cousins, with people you meet on a day-to-day, when you're out shopping, just pay attention. Pay attention to the impact of how there is even an abandoning of respect of oneself and of one's way of showing up, protecting, like how is our community showing up in this is like, give me a second, because the way it's coming to me, I want to make sure I convey this correctly. It's like taking this, it's like civic duty, so to speak. Our civic duty, politically, can look more than what we're seeing on the world stage right now, and moving more into the energetics of this patriarchal experience. And thinking, re-examining our worldview. Because our worldview influences how we show up in the world. It shifts us to sometimes someone that we may not, our ancestors may not even recognize. And so it's very important, this collective specifically, this soul flow conversation is now involving examining the ideas that create the reality that we are no longer desiring to see, questioning these connections, questioning the connections of how is our worldview influencing our community, our community systems, our family systems, which of course impact and influence us personally, and then it flows out into the world stage. Taking personal, like really being objective, which is also a part of masculine energy, being objective within this moon cycle, within this waxing moon cycle, of what is nurturing and feeding the ideas that are creating, even that are dominating our thoughts. Creating colonies in our mind. And warping our original blueprint. Being objective of what ideas am I nourishing that is contributing to what is happening in my community, in my family, and ultimately within myself, that may be creating protection, security, or creating abandonment of the duty that I have of being a human citizen, a whole human, but specifically being objective of this particular energetic experience when it comes to the father archetype, specifically in this. So things are revealing themselves, but they're not happening as isolated events. What produces our reality are ideas. What ideas are we accepting and agreeing to? Are they crystallized moments from the past? Are they serving the embellishment? Are they beautifying? Are these ideas creating more quality connections? Is it increasing our objectivity beyond seeking domination, beyond seeking domineering one another, or seeking to dominate an idea that is the idea of us that really is the full expression of who we are, but we abandon it. And then we go to war with it. In whatever way that looks like. Pay attention to ideas through your prayer practice, through being present. Be more this week. Be present. Be present. Be present. Be present. There are ideas that are showing up, that are swirling, right? That are being conjured up in the mental plane, spiritual plane of existence. Be clear of where these ideas are coming from. Okay? Use your spiritual practice, use your personal practice, your self-awareness practice, getting to know yourself, and really being like, okay, well, even if this sounds like a good idea, is it my idea? Because sometimes we abandon things because it may not have been originally our idea and we didn't vet it enough. Or it wasn't the right time. And that can be equally dangerous. Right? So, yeah. Be mindful of that. Be mindful of what's around you at this time too. When you say your prayers, when you are in your prayer practice, be very intentional about protecting yourself from ideas that may be germinating in another in your community that could be harmful to you or your family. Because you can't control what somebody else accepts, but you can protect yourself. Okay? Okay. I am now about to pull a card from my Money Oracle deck. Money Manifestation Wealth Oracle deck. Because now that we have the Father archetype out, we're talking about ideas. I feel that this message from, there's a message about how we're manifesting our value. Because there's that. If you were only valued for what you do, and you measure your worth off of what you do, and then you shift yourself to fit that idea, and then you look in the mirror and you like, who did I just shift myself into? Right? There's that. The stone also too, I want to highlight, the stone definitely connected to ancestral connections. So be aware of what's to tie in with, and if you haven't already, please go back and view the new moon soul flow, but it's labeled energetic collective conversation that we had a few days ago. Be mindful of, because sometimes when there are certain events that happen externally, and we may be like, dang, I don't know why I responded that way. We have genetic codes that when something triggers if something were to happen externally, an event, that it could trigger one of those codes and then express itself through you after it's been activated. Okay? Be aware of your own coding. So also within your ancestral practice, if you need to understand, like if you may have a moment where you're triggered and you haven't responded yet, but you still feeling it. Don't abandon your feelings. Feel what you're feeling. But if you need extra support and protection, pick up the phone line, call your ancestors. Those who are, be mindful of which ancestors you contacting too, because some of them be ready to pop off, okay? Some of them are like, listen, I was waiting on this to happen, okay? I need you to be a vessel of this, and that may not be in your best interest, which again goes into knowing yourself and knowing who you are, right? Because just because they are our ancestors, we honor them, we give reverence to them, but there are some ancestors who are still carrying generational curses, or they are still holding on to something. They may have a grudge that they have had for a minute, and they like, listen, my child is like me. She just needed the right atmosphere, and we can both move through this. Sometimes that may not be the best for you or that ancestor, because if that event triggers something that actually positions you or your family system where it will create more harm, chaos, distraction, distortion, that being expressed was only a temporary desire. It was a temporary desire that has now positioned you all in an unfavorable circumstance. And so that requires that you are present with your body, with your spirit, with your own internal spirit, to where you can have a conversation with your ancestor and say, listen, I'm not denying how you feel. However, this will not be the best way to approach this. So I want to facilitate a new idea. So listen, just because they are ancestors does not, some of them are still moving through their journeys of development, you see? So be aware of that. Be aware of that and be anchored in yourself, so that you know yourself, you know where you end and you begin, and where your ancestors end and where they begin. This takes place in forming and cultivating a healthy relationship, so that there is a dialogue and a conversation, and that you are aware of what your role specifically is in your family system, so that you're not positioning yourself to not fulfill that because an ancestor that has an unrealized idea that they've been waiting to make manifest, but it may not be the right time, it may not be the right place, and that takes you having a level of groundedness and wisdom, so that you're not just protecting yourself, but you are actually now actively protecting your family system, because hey, this may not be what needs to be communicated right now, or maybe we can take what you're feeling and communicate it in a way that will not position us to be a target for something that we can't really handle right now. Ashe. Ashe. Okay. Let's keep going. This will be our final What do you want us to know about what we're making manifest? Spirits, thank you. Yeah. So be two cards reveal itself about connections. Specifically from the money oracle deck, connection. Be aware that there is a connection that is opening for you at this time that needs to be protected. Okay? Because when we have opportunities that are opening up for us, there is always going to be something that will, and it doesn't have to be just externally. Let's break this down, and then we're gonna wrap this up. I want to communicate this in a way that is clear. Okay, so yes, you have an opportunity that's opening up for you financially. This can look, it can make manifest itself in different forms. So be open to how it will show up. Okay? So then this ties into being aware, present of the ideas. Okay? Because you can be receiving an opportunity or making a connection that can move you, like one step, one choice can move you towards the connection that is going to be fortuitous for you in this cycle, and it will continue to unfold throughout the rest of this year. Okay? Sometimes we will have energies that want to close these doors or close these opportunities. Sometimes these energies are not just other people from outside. Sometimes this can be from within our intimate systems, community, family, systems, organizations, because the third house is out. So it's not going to be from far away. They can be from, these opportunities are going to be close. But sometimes what's close and familiar to us, we may discount as an opportunity, right? Also, though, be aware of our own internal connections. Because sometimes we may be trying to connect something from the past because we're frozen in time. And we're looking for it to look like what it did before. Especially because, and also too with this Mercury, well, Mercury won't be in retrograde until next month. But it's within this lunar cycle. So we're leading up to this energy. We have things that are going to, that are, we are in a time-space cyclical continuum. We're always seeking to correct, restructure, move, right? Because at the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about landscape, okay? So our local landscape, our immediate landscape, even in our homes, what connections are we making? Are these connections pathways that will, and this is also tying into what was said in the new moon conversation. What are these conversations? Are they leading us to heal? Is it creating creating a space, facilitating a space for us to heal, to integrate our shadows, right? Be mindful of what shadows, if it ain't your shadow, be mindful if it's a family shadow or a collective shadow. Because, like we spoke about ancestrally, there are shadows that may not just be coming from us. And sometimes the connections that we make will move us in a space to create an opportunity to integrate what is fragmented, not only in ourselves individually, but in our families, which in turn will support and nourish our community. But there's a connection, a special connection in that is happening. It may be through a partner, a mentor, a client, or a friend. Okay? Be mindful, protect yourself from sabotage. Do inventory of the ideas that could possibly create sabotage. Facilitate a nourishing space for that, right, in your journal practice. And where you may have abandoned yourself in previous connections and moving away from that energy so that you can have a new idea. If you are attempting to realize a new idea, it will require you taking inventory of ideas that may no longer have worked for you and forgiving yourself for maybe being too harsh, too domineering about how it didn't work out. Sometimes things don't work out, like I said, because it was never our idea, or it wasn't the right time, or we weren't fully developed to realize that idea. But we have an opportunity to return. And when we return, what is our paradigm going to be around what's presenting itself right now? Ashe. Is there anything else, closing message to seal this idea? I'm hearing, don't be afraid to call yourself out. But again, when you do it, be gentle. Sometimes we be moving like a colonizer in our own minds. And then we distract ourselves and project ourselves for the system of colonization outside of us, but we've accepted the idea in a way that shows up very insidiously. And we become our own colonizer in a way that is destroying the essence of who we are, right? Nourish yourself. Nourish yourself with gentleness. Please. That is the end of our soul flow connection. Conversation. Soul flow conversation. Connection, connection, connection. Yeah. So if you would like, as I mentioned earlier, please stay tuned. Like, subscribe this video. Also, turn on your notifications, because Flow Into You TV will be more than just these soul flow conversations. We are going to build on these soul flow conversations by incorporating community and culture in the conversation here on this channel. And so I would love for you to be a part of it, because in order for us to reimagine the world that we want to live in and what we want our next generations to live in, these conversations are important. The conversations that activate a more intimate, a healthier intimacy with ourselves. And so share this video with anyone that you know that is interested in this, interested in having these conversations, interested in getting this intimate. And so, Ashe. Ashe. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for holding space for this conversation. Let me know below. Actually, if you made it this far, you a real one. Thank you. If you made it this far, you are a real one. Drop it in the comments. I will not be my own colonizer. I evict the colonizer in my own worldview. Put that in the comments. Drop it in the comments. And also tell me what you thought about. Tell me what activated you in your own, what did this activate in you? Because you're not alone. We in this together. Okay? Ashe. So I will see you all on Wednesday. We will be having a community conversation around unworthiness and success. Make sure you turn on your notifications. It is going to be a beautiful presentation. And we are going to be approaching it from the paradigm of forgiveness. Okay? And then Friday, we are going to have another conversation that is going to be culturally connected. I'm going to be highlighting local history and starting a deeper awareness around what we need to examine through moving through the historical perspective of our local communities. And I will be sharing with you all for the last 3 years I have been doing research with my local genealogy department in my library. And so now I want to actually share this with you, and yeah, hopefully it will activate within you to take more of an interest in your local history beyond colonization, so that we can start the energetic flow that will activate healing in our collective, our community, our family, and in ourselves. Ashe.